Retro Now.
Are you an aspiring Jedi, or do you dabble with the dark side of the Force?
Regardless of whether you fancy yourself a defender of the light or an aspiring Sith Lord, you're going to need a lightsaber.
Podcast Stardust is pleased to partner with Saber Masters, the creators of high-quality, durable, and affordable lightsabers.
Saber Masters is preparing to launch the Ultimate Lightsaber 2.0, and right now you can get 2 for the price of 1.
So, check out the link in our show notes and go get your Ultimate Lightsabers from Saber Masters.
And don't forget to use our referral code STARDUST to save $10 at checkout.
And each purchase using our referral code helps support Podcast Stardust.
Hello there. This is James Arnold Taylor, the voice of Obi-Wan Kenobi, and whenever I'm in this part of the galaxy, I listen to Dennis and Jay on Podcast Stardust. Makes flying a little more tolerable. Don't tell Anakin.
You found it. This is Podcast Stardust, the fully armed and operational podcast dedicated to Star Wars news, reviews, and discussion. I'm Dennis Keithley.
And I'm Jay Krebs.
And it is Friday, so it's time for our weekly look at some Star Wars news. But before we do that, Jay, you want to remind everybody where we can be found around the internet?
Well, we can be found very easily every day of the week on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Podcast Stardust.
Okay, the dish is aligned. The signal is boosted to maximum output. The shield is down. We are now broadcasting to the galaxy. Just wanted to start this episode off with a special note, thanking everyone that has been checking out Saber Masters. We've been putting that blurb at the beginning of our episodes, just reminding everybody that we have a collaboration going with them right now, and they are taking pre-orders on the Ultimate Saber 2.0. If you use our referral code, you'll get $10 off. They're already generous buy one get one free offer, and if you've taken that up, taken us up on that, so that helps out the podcast. It does provide support, and we just wanted to say thank you. So to all of you out there that have done so, again, thank you.
Absolutely. And we want to see videos. So when you get your sabers, please hit us up, especially on Instagram is a great way to, just DM us and let us know how much you love them, because we want to see them in action.
Yeah. And this isn't profit for us, by the way. This is just going to pay the expenses, the monthly hosting fees,
Right.
the subscription that we have for recording the podcast, things like that. So again, it is a great way to support the show, and we do appreciate it. And thank you from the bottom of our hearts. So with that having been said, let's dive into the news. And this first one is exciting. It was more exciting than I thought it was going to be when I saw this. But the Phantom Menace is returning to theaters just in time for the May the 4th weekend. It'll get a release on May 3rd. And we've got a new poster design for this release by Matt Ferguson. So what do you think, Jay?
Oh gosh, as soon as I saw this, it was just like internal screaming. And I hopped on right away to see if it was going to be playing anywhere around me. And it is. I still have to drive like 50 minutes away, but worth it, totally worth it. And this poster is gorgeous. So big time kudos to Matt Ferguson for this one. I have to say though, I'm not really familiar with Matt Ferguson. This is someone I feel like I should probably know who they are, but I do not.
Did he do the poster for the Return of the Jedi release
I
in
don't
theaters?
know. That's a good question. I guess I know we
Because-
talked about it.
Yeah, this looks very similar to that.
Like style-wise, you mean?
Yeah. Yeah, just looked it up. Matt Ferguson did, in fact, do that poster as well. And he's got,
Oh.
because the style is very similar, and it's awesome. I wish I had one of those Return of the Jedi posters. That was my one regret from not getting to the theaters to go see that. And this is just cool. I thought the original posters for the Phantom Menace were great, and they are. But this 25th anniversary poster. So just to describe it a little bit, in the foreground, you got the title of the movie, Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. Right above that, you have a very small Anakin standing in the middle of the track for the Boonta Eve pod race. Dead center in the poster is Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan back to back from the waist up with their lightsabers ignited. And then right behind them, also in the middle, is Queen Amidala in her royal red dress, the white face makeup, and the, I don't know what you call that thing that she wears on her face and head, and then the elaborate hairstyle.
Just
And
a
looming in,
headdress.
yeah, just a headdress, I guess, but feels like it should have more of a formal, she's a queen, like a crown. I
Mhm.
don't know. But anyways, and then you got Darth Maul, from the nose and eyes and some of the face markings behind that. And then you can see the Naboo and the Royal Naboo Star Cruiser and the Trade Federation battleship kind of off on the sides as well and small. But the colors are fantastic on this.
Mhm.
He did a really great job uh, putting this one together.
Oh yeah, it's really eye-popping. And the thing of it is that it's got this layering to it that almost makes it feel somewhat 3D in a way,
Mhm.
just because the way, as you explained, between Anakin and then Obi-Wan Qui-Gon and then Padme and then Darth Maul, you have this progression of these different characters, but there's like a depth to it almost. And the same thing is true even of the colors. It's almost like an ombre in a way from the bottom up. You've got the darker at the very bottom. And then, as you mentioned, with the sands of Tatooine and then the sunset, and you still see the two suns of Tatooine. So you've got the son of the suns, kind of thing going on there too. And then it just kind of elaborates into the colors towards the top. And it's just, and then Darth Maul's eyes just bore into your soul.
Yeah.
It's just, oh, fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. I'm hoping that these are going to be available at the different places where this movie is going to be shown, because I want to say they were for Return of the Jedi, but I know I did not have an opportunity to snag them because they were very few and far between.
Yeah, I know you can go to eBay and probably find these if you wanted one, and I may do that because I like it that much. I don't
Hmm.
like people that just snag all these and then inflate the prices on them. But hey, you gotta do what you gotta do. So yeah, but just like you're mentioning the eyes on them all, I just love it because it's like they're the Tatooine suns almost. I mean, the
Oh,
suns
yeah.
are in the poster down there by Anakin and like that, but it's that yellow glow that fits right
Hmm.
in with the Tatooine landscape at sunset. So brilliant design. The other thing is that so many movies for their posters nowadays just go with the Photoshop route where they collect all the characters and then they pile them one on top of each other, and it's not terribly artistic. That's not fair to say. I was going to say it's not terribly artistic, but sometimes it's not. It's a cheap way of putting out a poster. This is real art with the way
Hmm.
that they put this all together and compiled it, and it's what Star Wars deserves. It's what these posters should be.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so be on the lookout for that. I didn't go to sites like Fandango and stuff and get your tickets or be looking for your tickets. But speaking of other Star Wars movie news, according to Collider, The Mandalorian and Grogu will begin filming in June, and the movie will be going into production before season 4 of The Mandalorian. I'm not sure how much there really is there to discuss, other than if this is true, and I'm going to take it for granted that it is, then that does put us on pace to get that movie in 2026, like we were hoping,
Hmm.
likely in May for that. So,
Yeah.
um, I'm like I said, I'm going to assume Collider's got good sources and that is accurate. I'm much more optimistic about this movie getting done, which it's been kind of hard over the past couple of years to be optimistic about a movie getting done.
Well, it is because the fact that we've had, Star Wars giveth and Star Wars taketh away kind of thing.
Mhm.
And we've had more disappointment than we've had confirmation, it seems like. And to see this kind of coming to fruition, if you will, does really make me a lot more excited. So, yeah, I love the fact that they're talking about the June start date, that pre production has already geared up. One thing that sticks out to me from this article is the fact that it says it will feature Pedro Pascal returning as the voice of Din Djarin.
Mhm.
So, we're not seeing him as being featured face-wise. So, I guess obviously he's going to be continuing with the way if nothing else. And but yeah, that's kind of a bummer. I was really sort of, hoping that at some point we would get to see Pedro again, but
Yeah, and
yeah,
that may be misdirection on that. I mean, this is not an official news release from Lucasfilm.
true.
So this is what Collider is gathering from their sources. And so, was that a point of emphasis or is that an assumption they made? We don't know. And so we still may see his face, but Mandalorian didn't show his face in season 3 of the
Very true.
show either. And from everything I've heard, Pedro Pascal was never really on set. He provided the voice elsewhere, but
Mhm.
otherwise it was his stand-ins, Lateef Crowder and Brendan Wayne doing everything on set for him. And I've
Mhm.
heard a number of people that have been guests on The Mandalorian that said that they never worked with Pedro Pascal. Bryce Dallas Howard, when she directed that, was episode 4, season 1, said she didn't work with Pedro on that.
Mhm.
She didn't have any interaction with him.
Yeah. It's so bizarre in some ways to think about that. You know what I mean? That here you have this creation that you kind of just take for granted that everyone sort of knows everybody, but that's not always the case. And I mean that they know each other, but that they didn't directly work with each other. It just kind of blows my mind sometimes.
Yeah. Well, and here's the other thing. I don't know if you caught this news yesterday, but Pedro Pascal is going to be busy because he just got cast as Reed Richards in the Fantastic Four, which is coming out July next year. So
Oh, no, I did not see that.
yeah, that was the Valentine's that Marvel put all over social media yesterday. They announced the cast of that movie. So it's
Okay.
not like he's got a lot of availability with that going on.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, I did not know that. I've been neck deep in work here lately, so I'm glad I have you, Dennis, because otherwise I'd be very out of touch.
All right. So let's move on to some television news. Okay. I'm going to be as positive about this as I can. But last week, when we were doing our news coverage, we had just gotten that teaser from Empire all over social media that was the Starfield and then the blue Star Wars script, that usually says, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. This one said, hello there, ... And then it was teasing some major announcement at 4 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time over in London. They got everyone's hopes up that we were getting some sort of announcement for season 2 of Obi-Wan Kenobi. And that's not what happened. They basically were announcing what looks like to be some very cool coverage of the prequel trilogy as the prequels are celebrating their 25th anniversary. Go check it out. There's a really cool image of Hayden Christensen posing against the wall with the Darth Vader shadow, and so there's
So
all that type of
cool.
stuff. If I don't buy a whole lot of these magazines anymore because pretty much everything's available online and I just don't have the room to collect all that. But that being said, I, I don't know about you, Jay, and these stories are cool and stuff like that. I'm a little resentful of the way they announced everything there because they had to know when they promoted it the way they did that they were generating that type of excitement. And it just seems a little bit manipulative.
Yeah, we were definitely among good company though when it
Mm-hmm.
comes to, thinking about, "Ooh, what could this mean?" And of course, thinking about season 2 of Kenobi. I even had students of mine that were coming in to my classes that morning saying, "Did you hear there's going to be a season 2 of Obi-Wan Kenobi?" I said, "Well, we have to wait until it was 11 o'clock a.m. my time." And
Mm-hmm.
so I just happened to have lunch around that time. And so, I kept refreshing, 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 refreshing. And no, I take that back. It was 1 o'clock and refreshing. And then it was like, well, okay, this is fun, but not exactly what we thought it was going to be. But, in hindsight, it kind of makes sense that it wasn't coming from Empire if there was a season 2 of Obi-Wan Kenobi or anything else for that matter, because as we've always said, we rely on directly from Lucasfilm or StarWars.com or, something like of that nature. So for Empire Magazine to get that kind of a scoop, I guess was a little bit of a stretch, but
Sure, but they also had the exclusive announcement on the 25th anniversary screenings of the Phantom Menace.
true.
They can get this news. They are an industry rag that's got sources. And so it's not out of the realm of possibility that they would have that type of scoop and they would have some sort of a exclusive reveal that would then be picked up by everybody else afterwards. But the thing is, they doubled down on this. Like, when they finally made that announcement, they put a meme out there. I don't know if you saw this one, featuring Anakin, the one where it's Anakin and Padme, where Anakin says something and then Padme responds, and then Anakin just kind of has that sly look on his face, and then Padme like repeats what she just asked.
Oh, yeah,
And
from, the picnic scene in Attack of the
yeah,
Clones. Yeah.
and, Anakin's like, Empire's got a major announcement coming on such, and then, and Padme says, "Oh, season 2 of Obi-Wan Kenobi, right?" And then just Anakin smirking, and it's like, "You're announcing season
Right?
2." Okay, they're making fun of us at that point. And
Yeah.
so, I don't know. Like I said, it's not the end of the world. I will at some point probably check out these articles and read what they all have to say about the prequels, but you kind of burned any credibility that you've got with announcing things with the way they handle that. And there's a lot of people who take it in stride. And like I said, I want to overreact to this, and I also don't want to burn up too much more of our news time on it. But at the same point, it's just, I couldn't help but feeling like, everyone was waiting for this announcement. And I don't know that you needed to tease that the way you did.
Mhm.
And that, you weren't announcing something new. You're announcing in interviews that you're doing on a 25-year-old movie. So,
Right,
okay, that just
right.
didn't, to me, that didn't warrant the social media treatment they gave it.
No, I totally agree with you. But, on a positive note, there are some really cool things in here that I am looking forward to, getting a little bit more on, where they talk about getting closer, rarely seen concept art from the trilogy, talking about the pod race a little bit more in detail, and even uh, catching up with Ellen Sleaze-Bagano, Matt Doran. So that's kind of cool that they've expanded some things like that. And the two covers are really awesome. I very rarely find Empire magazine, but I don't know if it's just because I have bad luck with it, but we talked about this before with the Mandalorian last season, that even going to places like Barnes and Noble, they don't oftentimes have them in a timely manner, if at all. So, to snag them, at least where I live, is very difficult.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. So be on the lookout for them if you want it, because they won't be around too long.
Yep.
Okay. So let's move on. In other television news, we have heard from none other than Diego Luna and several other stars from Andor season 2 that it has finished filming. So that was just in the past week. So it looks like we are on pace for a 2025 release of Andor season 2. I really need to go back and rewatch season 1. And I know I've said that a few times when Andor's come up in the past couple of months, but I liked it and I'm certain I could follow the story, but I really need to get to a refresher on some of the side characters that were in that one. Just because before that comes out, it looks like I got plenty of time to do it. Don't get me wrong, but this kind of inspired me to go back and check out Andor again.
Oh, totally. And I did see some of these posts on Instagram about the wrapping happening. And I've been kind of going down some rabbit holes on YouTube here lately when I've had some time to kind of wind down in the evenings. And I'll tell you what, there's been some amazing fan edits out there of various components of the Star Wars saga. And one of them specifically that I ran across was about the rebellion and how it was formed, and it took pieces parts from Andor, and it took pieces parts from different movies and kind of spliced them together so brilliantly. And I'll have to share that at some point here, but I'm with you that there was some clips from the series from Andor, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I need to go back and watch this again." Now that we've had some time to sort of let it marinate, in our brain
Uh-huh.
pans for a while. Yeah. Yeah, I definitely need to do that for sure. Maybe spring break.
There you go.
We'll
Nice
see.
little spring break project.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's get into some book news. And we've got the cover reveal for Temptation of the Force, which is the next adult novel in Phase 3 of the High Republic, which will be coming out on June 11th. It's also the second to last adult novel for what we know of as the High Republic. This book is written by Tessa Gratton, and the art for the cover is by Grant Griffin, who also did the Eye of Darkness cover that features Marcion Rowe. The cover has Elzar Man and Avar Kriss on it. Their lightsabers ignited, and they are kind of glancing at each other. What'd you think?
Well, I'll tell you what, when the announcement of the title of this first came out, I was like, "Oh, yeah, whatever, Temptation of the Force." But then when we got this description and then I saw this cover, I was thinking to myself, "Okay, this could get a little saucy, a little
Yeah,
spicy."
I knew you were going to say that.
You know me so well, Dennis.
Yeah, you want to go ahead and read that description?
Oh, I would love to. Official description. For over a year, Jedi Masters Avar Kriss and Elzar Mann were kept apart by the Nihil storm wall. After Avar makes a daring escape from inside the occlusion zone, the star-crossed Jedi are reunited. But while the physical distance between them has evaporated, their shared grief over their failure to protect the galaxy from the Nihil threat still remains. To rally the Jedi Order and the Republic, Avar and Elzar cling to their belief in serving light and life. Working together, they lead a daring mission into Nihil space to liberate the planet of Naboo and show those trapped behind the storm wall that the Jedi will never abandon them. Now back within close orbit of one another, the two Jedi Masters can no longer deny the bond that has always drawn them back together and made them stronger. After finally embracing their true desires and imbued with renewed purpose, Avar and Elzar devise a plan to turn the tide of the conflict with the Nihil once and for all. Accompanied by Jedi Knights Bel Zettifar, Buryaga, and Vernestra Rowe, the Jedi begin their hunt for Marchion Rowe. But to seek out the Nihil's dangerous leader, the Jedi will have to survive the nameless terrors that they have thus far been powerless to stop.
Yeah, some steamy suggestions there in that
Heck yeah.
description for the book.
And
Uh,
Naboo, hello.
Yeah, then you compound this with this quote from Tessa Gratton herself. Discussions about what this book is, I should say. Discussions about the nature of the Force and the role of the Jedi in the galaxy. Forbidden Jedi romance. Put an
Mm-hmm.
underline underneath that.
Yeah.
Banter and daring lightsaber duels. The generation's old Graf Santeca feud. Messy Elzar. Ever-running lore and hints about the history of the Rowe family and the mysteries of the Nameless. Things that were seen in Phase 2 get to blossom. So yeah, not just mysteries from Phase 2 apparently. So a lot of
Yeah,
innuendo going on with all of this. So fine. I just hope by the end of this that Avar and Elzar are still Jedi and not finding themselves
exactly.
kicked out of the order. But
Well,
wow.
we are living in a different age, but and the thing of it is too is I just hope that it's done well. You know what I mean? Because
Uh-huh.
sometimes the romance stuff can be a little I don't want to say pushed, but it can impede the storyline. But I have a feeling that I mean everything that's come out of the High Republic has just been so incredibly impressive that I feel like that they're going to be able to maintain that line between, passion and purpose, if you will.
Yeah, I hear you. The scenes for this were laid in, Light of the Jedi, the first book that Charles Soule wrote when
Mhm.
there was a suggestion of this past dalliance when they were Padawans, and then they grew past it, and they've taken on a more responsible role. But Elzar has been kind of backsliding a bit with that, and as he copes with everything that's been going on, and then these two desperately missed each other, and that came up in a major way in Eye of Darkness, and then we saw in the 4 issues of Shadows of Starlight that was discussed, that
Yeah.
was the second issue, I guess, or the third one, doesn't matter. But Avar and Elzar were lonely, and when they reached out to each other and made even that briefest connection, how it reinvigorated them both. So
Mhm.
I feel like with the team that they've got going on behind the High Republic, that this should be done pretty well. Um, Star Wars has had romance as one of its core elements ever since A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back.
Sure.
So you can't say it's not an element of Star Wars in there. I like it when it's an element rather than a focus, I guess I should say. But then
Right.
again, it was a focus in Attack of the Clones. It's the whole reason Anakin fell. So,
Mhm.
yeah. Anyway,
And I guess you could argue too, Dark Disciple was pretty well focused on romance, you know? I thought
yeah.
it was.
Well, I mean, there was definitely a romance angle to it,
Mhm.
but it was just as much about how someone could fall to the dark side
Sure.
and redemption there. And of course, we are now anticipating further evolution of that story when we get to the season 3 of the
Yes.
Bad Batch. So coming up
Yes,
this
we
week.
are.
So okay.
Yes.
So, anyways, like I said earlier, look for that on your bookshelves on June 11th. I made my pre-order today, as a matter of fact, they were recording this, so
Ooh.
mine should be arriving on that day. I can't wait for it.
Yeah, I need to do that. Put that on my to-do list.
Okay. Well, we got one last story, and it's a brief one, but we're all eagerly awaiting the release of Star Wars Outlaws, which is the open world Star Wars game coming from Ubisoft. And according to Variety magazine, Ubisoft announced that it will be arriving by the end of this year during one of their latest earnings report. So, yay for that. I
Mhm.
gotta wonder if it's going to come out before that Hunters game that's been in development forever and just like constantly been around the corner. And I'm kind of thinking it will be at this rate.
Yeah, it sounds like it for sure.
So anyways, be looking, keep your eye out for that one. We don't have a firm date other than just by the end of the year. So anyway, well, that'll bring us to the end of this week's edition of Star Wars News here on Podcast Stardust. We hope you enjoyed the episode. And if you want to get all of our weekly discussions of Star Wars news, then make sure you hit that subscribe button on your podcatcher of choice. So all future episodes of Podcast Stardust will be downloaded automatically for you. I'd like to remind you that you can find all episodes of the podcast over on retrozap.com, which is also home to several other great podcasts on the network covering everything that's the latest and greatest and retro and geek culture. As always, we greatly appreciate your 5-star ratings and reviews on whatever podcatcher it is that you use to get your podcasts, especially if that's Apple Podcasts. And don't forget to share the show with your friends on social media, especially if there's an episode that you particularly enjoyed. So with those things having been said, Jay, you want to remind everybody what our social media contacts are one more time?
Absolutely. We are very easily found on Facebook, Instagram, and X at Podcast Stardust. And you can also check out all of our Pinterest boards and our YouTube channels. We are on the regular YouTube as well as YouTube Music, and we're getting all kinds of amazing interactions over there. And we are very, very grateful for everybody that shared the show out. Either on YouTube or Spotify or through all of our other social media outlets. Very, very much appreciated. And if you want to hit us up for some real time chatter, we do have a Discord room over on the RetroZap Discord server where we are one of many different rooms. All the RetroZap shows have their own room, and there's also other dedicated rooms to tons of pop culture geekery goodness. So go to our show notes and check that out. And speaking of links in our show notes, you can also check out our T Public store. And we have 7 different show logo designs available on all kinds of things from apparel to home goods. So t-shirts, sweatshirts, coffee mugs, and the like. And we would love to see some of that out in the wild. So hit us up over there. And as we mentioned at the top of the show, we are collaborating with Saber Masters. And so if you would love to get in on that referral code and get some amazing lightsabers for yourself, that 2-for-1 deal is going on. And once again, that does help out the show with that $10 code that you can get off also in addition to using our Stardust code at checkout. So get to that link in our show notes for that. And again, we just really appreciate that. So that being said, Dennis, I know you've got some warp trails on the horizon. So you want to tell everybody about that and where they can be looking forward to that.
So I am warming up the Warp Trails studio as we are anticipating the return of Star Trek Discovery for its 5th and final season early April. My wife and I are the co-hosts there. This show is exclusively on the RetroZap podcast network. So just head over to your podcast of choice and you can find us there. And if you want to find all of our past episodes, the best place to do that is at retrozap.com. Jay, what is the latest from the world of cosplay?
All right. And I feel like April's going to be here before we know it. That's going to be a big month for me in cosplay as well. So on my Instagram, which is at j.snips cosplay, you can catch all the details about upcoming events that I have going on, as well as my posts as Ahsoka, Hera, the fourth sister, and my Mandalorian build. Kind of taking a little bit of a break right now, not really by choice, but life happens. But I will be appearing at Fan Expo Cleveland, as well as the Operation Fandom pop culture event in April. And I will be in Hartville for the Hartville Toy and Gaming Convention. And just added to my docket, I will also be appearing in Independence, Ohio, and I'm going to be conducting a makerspace and a how-to kind of thing. So I will definitely be posting some details about that as that time gets closer. So once again, that is at J.Snips Cosplay.
Okay, upcoming on the show on Monday, we're going to be getting into Star Wars Infinities, which is kind of a what if comic that was published by Dark Horse Comics back in 2001. We'll be focusing on the A New Hope story arc. And then on Wednesday, it is the second installment in the Phantom Menace series, which we're doing to celebrate the 25th anniversary of the film's release. So thanks for listening to episode 691 of Podcast Stars, everyone. Have a great weekend. And until next time, may the Force be with you.